Today we are focusing on what every data scientist is talking about, namely AI. Specifically, I will show you how to use your favorite chatbot like ChatGPT from OpenAI or some model from Mistral AI or some chat model that you have deployed through Ollama. I will show you how you can use all of these models inside of your R workflow. And to be clear, I'm not talking about how to use GitHub Copilot or GPT Studio inside of R Studio. I'm really talking about how to use these chatbots as part of text processing.
What's up everyone? In case you don't know me, my name is Albert, and on this channel I help our users get better at typical data tasks like data cleaning, data visualization, a bit of machine learning, all the good stuff, and today we are focusing on AI. I am going to show you a package that I built that makes it really easy to talk to different AI chatbots, so let's check that out.
Inside of my Quarto file, I've already put in a code chunk that loads the tidyverse and a package called tidy chat models. This is a package that I have built to make our life a little bit easier when we want to talk to different chat models. To install this package, you will have to go to my GitHub page, and there you can find install instructions for how to install this package. Namely, all you have to do is to use the DevTools package and call install GitHub, and then use the repository I have set up for this package. And if you don't have DevTools, you can install it just like you would install any other package. And once you have installed these packages, you will also need API keys to communicate with, say, OpenAI's ChatGPT or Mistral AI. That is why inside of my Quarto file, the code chunk also uses the load.env function from the .env package that gets access to my .env file, which is nothing but a file that I have set up here, where I've set up the API keys for this video. I'm showing you the API keys here. So this is an API key for OpenAI. This is why I called the key like OAI for OpenAI. And this is the key for Mistral. I'm showing you these keys because I will delete them after this video. So in real life, never show anyone your API keys. I'm just doing this here so that you know how to set up this .env file. And once you have done that, you can call it, and then you can access your environment variables via the sys.getEnv function. And there you can just use the names that you have specified here, and this will give you the API keys back. In real life, you also shouldn't just execute it like this, because this will write the key to your history file. Someone could get access to it and then steal your API key. Again, API keys are something to be secret about, but here I'm just showing you everything just so you know what to do. To get an API key, you will have to register at the platform that you want to use. So if you want to use OpenAI, you will have to register with OpenAI to get a key from there. So with that, we have set up everything we need. So let's get rid of this part here and let's try to do something with these chat models. For example, I have downloaded the subtitles for one of my YouTube videos, namely the one about the HTTR2 package guide. And here in this file, you will find all of the subtitles of my package intro. And now I would like to use ChatGPT to summarize this whole thing, because it was quite a long video and the subtitles are therefore also quite long and I don't have the time to read all of this. So let's try to let ChatGPT summarize this for us. The first thing we have to do is to actually load the file into R. This will give us every line from the file that you've just seen. Then we can send this to paste to throw everything together. And then we save this into a new variable. And this is the variable we will use inside of our functions to send the data to ChatGPT. And now to send data to ChatGPT, this is exactly where the tidy chat models package comes in, where we can first create a new chat via the create chat function. This function supports a couple of vendors like OpenAI, Mistral AI, and local models from Ollama. And here we want to use the OpenAI vendor, and we want to use our API key for that vendor. So this will create our chat for us, and it will show us that our chat engine is OpenAI, and we currently have 0 messages in that chat. The next thing we should do is to specify the model from OpenAI that we want to use. And here we want to use GPT 3.5 Turbo. So we pass our chat object to the add model function and specify the model as GPT 3.5 Turbo. And then you see that our model now knows that it should use this model from OpenAI. To figure out what kind of models you can use inside of this argument, you will actually have to check the API documentation of the vendor that you use. Clearly, if you put Mistral AI here, you couldn't use GPT 3.5 because the name GPT 3.5 is a model from OpenAI, and therefore the model wouldn't work and you would get some error. So just make sure that you know which model you want to use. If you want to use a cheap and fast model, GPT 3.5 Turbo is pretty good, so let's just go with that one. Next, we should probably add some messages to our chat. So that's why we use the add message function. We just pipe everything to this function, and in there we can specify the type of message that we want to use and the actual content of that message. As a first type, we'll use a system message. So that's why we set the role argument to system, and these system messages are a nice way to instruct your model for the task it is supposed to solve. For example, you could write always say stuff in Spanish, then ChatGPT would probably just respond in Spanish, whatever else message you put in there. So these system messages are really nice to set the stage, and here we fill the message argument with the task it needs to do here in our case, and we are saying you're a helpful subtitle summarizer. Your goal is to summarize YouTube subtitles into 5 takeaways, and you receive subtitles and return a summary in the following form, and then you just give a list of takeaway 1, takeaway 2, and so on, and you leave some placeholder here for ChatGPT to fill in. So that's how you could use a system message to instruct ChatGPT what it's supposed to do. And once the system message is in the chat, you can also add the user message to the chat. So we'll use the role user, which is the default value anyway, but here we just specify it so that you understand the kind of different roles that you can have. And then we put in as a message the subtitle variable that we have created here, the one with the subtitles from my video from last week. So once we execute this, we get an error, and that's because for some reason the pipe here was broken. So let's just make sure that the pipe actually here is the right one. And now everything works as we want it to. And now we see that there are 2 messages inside of our chat. This means right now we haven't actually performed anything. We haven't sent any data to ChatGPT. We have just assembled the messages inside of our chat. I'll show you how to get the messages out later on because we want to know what we get back later. But for now, let's just add one more thing, and that is parameters. You see there are parameters that control a lot of things like how long should the answers be that ChatGPT returns, or how well should the reply fit to the input. Should ChatGPT be creative, or should it stay true to the facts that are inside of the message? And things like these can be controlled with parameters. And you can add any parameter with add params. Just chain your chat object into this function, and in there you can set any parameter that you want. Here I'm using the temperature parameter. This one determines if ChatGPT is creative or sticks to the facts. With values close to 0, it will try to stay to the facts, and with larger values, it will be more creative in the replies. You could throw in any parameters that you want in there, as long as these are supported by your vendor, in this case OpenAI, and the model GPT 3.5 Turbo in this case. So that's why I've used temperature here, because it's a very common parameter. And once you execute this part here, you see that your output actually tells you the temperature was set to 0.2. Still, this doesn't mean that we have actually sent any data to ChatGPT. Right now, we've just set up the workflow, and now we can actually perform the chat by calling the perform chat function. And just so that I don't have to redo this a couple of times, let's just save this into a variable that we call chat. Now, if we execute this, it will take a couple of seconds until the data was sent to ChatGPT and back. And now, if we look at our chat object, we see that there is actually one more message in there now. It used to be 2, namely the system message and the user message, and now there is a 3rd message in there. So let's look at how we can extract that message. The way to do that is, let me make some room here, is to send your chat object to the extract chat function. And if you execute this, this will give you the chat in the console. Here in blue, you see the assistant reply. This is basically what ChatGPT replied. In green, it's a really long one because this is the user message that we've sent in there. It kind of doesn't make sense to look at this inside of the console, but still, I just wanted to show you what we can have. And in pink, you see the system message. So you could, in theory, have a chat inside of your console, but with these long user messages, it doesn't make much sense. So let's set this to silent so that we don't get a reply inside of the console. Instead, let us save the reply into the messages. And then if you look at that variable, you see that you get a tibble back with the messages stored in it. You could actually use the same chat object and add further messages to it and then perform the chat again. It will send everything again to ChatGPT, and you will get another assistant message back. Let's try that in a second. For now, let's have a look at what we actually got back here. So let's look at the messages object. Let's look in the column message. We want to extract the third one. And now we see that it has these line break characters in there, and we can pass this to the cat function to print this as if it were real text. So the line breaks are actually line breaks and not some special character. So let's see what we've got back here. It says web APIs are essential for data analysis. Yeah, that's true. Making API requests follows a specific workflow, seems legit. That's what I've said in the video. This seems a bit generic, so let's try to use some other text. And I've actually also got the subtitles for my POSITconf talk. So if we use the subtitles here, then you see here that, well, you probably won't see it immediately, but this text is different than we had before. It's the subtitles from the talk that I gave at POSITconf last year. And we want to summarize it now. So maybe there we can see if the feedback that ChatGPT gives us is more specific and it didn't just give us something general back about web APIs. Let's see what it gives us. Okay, so it said that adding HTML and CSS to popular art tools like ggplot, GT, Quarto, and Shiny can enhance the visual appeal of outputs. That's actually very good because these are the specific tools I mentioned inside of my talk. It's also talking about that this allows to design elements like colorizing specific words in plots or adding gradients to tables. This is also an example that I've used inside of the talk. Learning can be relatively straightforward once you are comfortable with creating basic visualizations. Yeah, it's true. My point was that when you can create basic visualizations, you can really enhance them by just using a bit of HTML and CSS. Not the best takeaway, but still impressive that some machine can filter all of this out from this whole subtitles thing. And the other takeaways are also pretty good. So you get the gist. It's working fine. And this is a really powerful tool that you can use as part of your text processing. For example, you could use ChatGPT now in an automated way to summarize a bunch of PDF files or whatever you want to use. You don't have to rely on the ChatGPT user interface on the website. You can just use this package here to do everything in a programmatic way. And now I've promised you that we want to add more chat messages, so let's try that. Let's use our chat from before. It has this part here. It still has 3 messages. And now we say, okay, again, let's add a message. And it will be user message again. And let's now say, let's make the takeaways more concise. Let's see what it will do. First, if we just execute this part, nothing will actually happen because we haven't sent anything to ChatGPT. We actually have to perform this chat. And once we do, we want to extract chat from there. And let's save this into a new variable called messages. And now if we execute this, this will actually resend all of that stuff to ChatGPT. And you can see here, this was the part we've had before. It's the exact same thing because this was part of the chat. Then we got our user feedback that says make the takeaways more concise. And now ChatGPT replied again and made everything a little bit shorter. So that's kind of cool. You can play around with this a little bit and try to figure out what else you can do with that. So that's pretty cool, at least I think it is. But I also want to show you one thing that I think is particularly cool about this package that I built, namely that you can really easily switch to different chatbots, either to a different model or to a different vendor through this interface that I've built. But before I show you that, let me point out that this was actually a ton of work, just building the package and also making this video. So if you find this stuff enjoyable, I'd appreciate if you hit the like button. So thank you for that. And now let's get back to the video. So back in our code, we could, for example, switch to Mistral AI, and there I say Mistral. You can actually find in the documentation of this function that currently only OpenAI, Mistral, and Ollama are supported. And since I'm using a different vendor now, it also means that I cannot use the API key from OpenAI to communicate with this. So that's why I use my Mistral key. Again, this is the one that I have saved into my .env file. And here I have to use this as part of my create chat function. And of course, I also have to modify the model that I want to use. Here I want to use the Mistral large latest model. And other than that, we can leave everything as it is. So we don't have to worry about how to find the endpoint of the new API. And we don't have to figure out, okay, how do I insert new parameters? How do I insert system messages or other messages? Everything is the same interface. All you have to tweak is the stuff in the beginning with the vendor, the API key, and the model that you want to use. And now if you re-execute this, everything will now get sent to Mistral AI. Again, it will take a couple of seconds, and then it will give you the takeaway that Mistral AI got. I also enjoyed this summary because it uses like my name and figures out who is the one speaking. That's kind of neat. It does say that I am a math PhD student, and it was true at the time that I gave the talk, but I am finally done, so good for me, I guess. Still, I enjoy that here this chatbot picked this up, and it also specifically uses the tools that I've mentioned like ggplot, GT for tables, Shiny, and Quarto. It also mentions specific videos that I have mentioned as a resource for learning HTML and CSS. So in a sense, this model kind of picked out more specifics from the video compared to the summary we've got before. But in the end, both summaries are actually pretty great. And if we wanted to, we could repeat the thing from before and tell the chatbot to make things more concise. So let's do that again, because it's a long prompt, it takes a bit. And here you see the output from before. And now it makes things a little bit more concise. Cool. Now I want to show you one more cool thing that I think is kind of neat, is that we can also use local large language models like ChatGPT. You see, all of the chats I've made until this point did cost money because I sent data to ChatGPT and I get data back, and everything I will get billed for it. It isn't much, it's a couple of cents, depending on how long the prompt is and how often I do it. I will get charged more, of course, but in the end it wasn't that expensive. But if you don't want to incur any costs, and you have a pretty good computer that can run models locally, you could even use the Ollama framework, which you have to install on your computer. And then you could use Ollama in here. And if you do that, you don't need an API key anymore, because this is just used to authenticate yourself with the service. If you run everything on your computer, no need to tell anyone who you are, because everything happens on your computer anyway. So with Ollama, you have to make sure that the model that you want to use can run on your computer. And to do that, you will have to use the console and tell Ollama to pull the manifest of a model that you want to use. In my case, I want to use Llama 2. And if I execute this, it says it's pulling the manifest. It downloaded everything. It didn't really download this in real time. I've had this before. That's why it immediately said 100%. But still, you have to make sure that your model is available. And once that is the case, you can redo everything as you did before. You just have to make sure that the model that you use here matches the one that you've pulled. So in this case, Llama 2. And now we re-execute this now for this local model that uses Llama 2. And then you get back a message that looks like this. And here you see that, okay, Llama 2 didn't really stick to the takeaway framework that I have defined here. And the reason for that is that a lot of these models that you deploy locally haven't been specifically trained for system messages and these chat formats to really stick to your instructions the way the big models like Mistral and ChatGPT have been trained to do. So that's why you have to resort to a kind of different way of doing that. And that means making sure that your message looks like something to be completed. In this case, this could mean that you get rid of the system message because you don't need it here anymore. And instead, for the message, you use the glue function, and in there you use your variable subtitle so that your subtitle text goes into the message, but you also write a bit of stuff around. Something like, I have just heard this talk, and then you insert the subtitle, and then you say, and my 5 takeaways are, and maybe that way the results are a bit better. Make sure that if you do it, it will tell you NA here, is since we have removed one message, getting access to the third message will not return anything. So that's why you have to check the second message. And now the output looks closer to what we originally wanted to do. Maybe we could even put in something like takeaway 1 and then check if this sticks closer to our intended output. And indeed, it does do that for takeaway 2 and takeaway 3, but for takeaway 1, it isn't there. That's because Llama 2 completes the message that we have here. Okay, so you have to keep in mind that models can operate differently and not all models work exactly the same as ChatGPT or the Mistral chat model do. And you also have to take into account that not all models have the exact same strength. Here I have used Llama 2, which is a pretty good model, but if you use some very small model, you might get back complete gibberish here. For example, if I put in the Gemma 7 billion tokens model, it's a rather small model. Let's try what we get back there. Well, in that case, it completes the message by completing takeaway 1, Then comes takeaway 2, takeaway 3, but it doesn't actually fill out the rest. That's a bit dumb. Maybe there is a way around this by tuning some parameters, but my point is that you have to play around with these models a little bit to figure out what works best for your use case. So with the Tidy Chat Models package, you have a tool that streamlines the process of using different chatbots and a way to access the chatbot powers inside of your R workflow. So you could use this for some text classification models. A typical example would be sentiment analysis. There are like a billion use cases for the power of LLMs, and now you get to play around with this too. I hope you enjoyed this video and the package. Feel free to let me know in the comments what you think about the package and about this video. If there are any issues with the package, don't hesitate to put in an issue request on GitHub. I'll try my best to get to it, and I'll also try to add more functionalities in the future to this package. And finally, if you did enjoy this video, check out this video next, where I have a whole playlist on web development for our users. It's a great tool when you want to add a little bit of web development technologies to the R tools that you already use. Or you could check out this playlist here, where I show you how to create elaborate charts with ggplot. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.